All right. Well, hello, hello. Welcome to Wake Up to Your Life Magic. I am your host, Dr. Helmut Lucero Love, and I'm so excited to have you here for another round of having conversations that we're not having to elevate our leadership, whether that's in business, whether that's in government, or whether that's just in society at large. I will encourage you. You can check us out at wakeuptoyourlifemagic.com and learn more about the book and the initiative. But today, I am very excited because I have with me Brent Andrew, who is going to talk with us today about some interesting perspectives from his corner of the world. Hello, Brent. Welcome.
Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are.
Right? Exactly. It's always one of those somewhere. So, Brent, I'm so excited to have you join us as we talk about communication. And I know this is an area of expertise. Share a little bit about what you do so that those who are listening can follow up with you, and we'll cover it again at the end.
Helmut, first of all, thanks for having me today. I really have noticed, and I'm sure many of your viewers have noticed this as well, that communications are not as effectively as they could be. And whether this is an individual to individual or organization to audience, and I help organizations and people identify their audience, identify what that audience needs, and identify and create communications that really engage that audience. That's what I do.
Awesome. So you really help people connect with their targets,
Yes.
and that's. I think we have many reasons to believe that we have a communication problem, particularly in the United States, but
Quite
also
a,
in the world of inundated phones and texts and Instagrams and socials, right?
yeah.
News, TV, like getting our message out there and being really clear with it can be challenging. So
Yeah.
I,
It's a very noisy environment, right? I mean, you see just people walking down the street, engaging with two or three media simultaneously at the same time, trying to navigate walking down a sidewalk, at the same time running errands. It's really noisy. There's a lot going on. Absolutely. And it's hard to break
actually,
through that.
it is really hard. I imagine that. Yeah, I can relate to that. Just someone who's doing a little bit of politics right now. I'm like, wow, it's
Yeah.
so much work. Or a message to change the world, even something like a podcast, right? Finding the audience is can be interesting. So as we tell a little bit, take a turn towards storytelling. I would love for you to share, Brent, about a moment, an inflection point, something in your life where you learned something, your life shifted, and that can be related to communications or whatever, so that our audience gets know you a little bit better.
Yeah. Um, I'm going to talk about this one moment. And I was the head of communications for an agency in the city government of San Francisco, and it was public health. And this was during COVID. Um, we were pushed to the brink, like all of us were. We were working so hard. We had seen, what happened in New York, and they had so many deaths from COVID that they were, bringing in refrigerator trucks to keep bodies. I mean, it was horrific, right? And we were seeing that, and we were working so hard and under very tough conditions. Not enough supplies, not enough anything, right? And we were waiting for kind of the next shipment of respirators, of face masks, and waiting for the next shipment of rubber gloves, and everything was in short supply. And the public hospital here in San Francisco, under tremendous pressure, people on staff getting sick, all that kind of thing. And we started up a daily message out to staff. Here's when we can expect the next shipment of respirators. Here's when we can expect the next shipment of, later on, vaccines and so forth. And I ran into somebody in the hallway of this hospital one day, and he said, I got to tell you something, man. It's really good that you're keeping us up to date on when we can expect our next set of gloves. But people are hurting right now. And we have to go home to our families at the end of a day. And we're frightened to death that we're going to infect them.
Mhm.
And you got to address us like people, like address that side of it. We're anxious every day. We're living under this intense pressure in this hospital. Could talk to us like people, right? Deal with that side of it. Deal with the, there are a lot of people of faith. Um, deal with that. Like, do something to let us know that you see us as people. That was a huge wake up call for me. Like, yeah, we were doing a good job letting people know when they could expect the next shipment of gloves. Okay. But we started every day after that with a little message from one of the chaplains or a little message about, hey, we know you're stressed today. Take a minute to yourself, walk around, like do something to get yourself mentally healthy. That changed my entire approach to communicating with that group of people. Just having that one person say to me, hey, we're people. Hey, we have to go home to our families. Hey, we're scared to death about this. We're sweating, getting home and like crazy worried about us infecting our own children. So deal with us as human beings first, and then let us know when the rubber gloves are coming.
Yeah. Wow. And that's such a, I think that speaks volumes to a lot of the communication in our world today.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
do what's
yeah,
required, kind of like we do a sort of um, dehumanized down to the bare fact
yeah,
minimum, sort
yeah.
of this and this. Um, and we're taught that everywhere in our culture,
No
right?
question. No question. It's like we're nuts and bolts, but don't talk about the human side. Don't talk about emotion. Don't talk about faith. Don't talk about anything like that, right? Heaven forbid we would do any of that. But it's like we got to get a deeper understanding that Helmut, you go home to your family after a day. You have concerns outside of your workplace. I know you're, running for political office, right? And then, people need to hear, yeah, we're going to fix the potholes. Okay, cool. But they also need to hear, I see you. I
Yeah,
know that you're struggling right now. I know you have pain in your life. Let's talk about that.
yeah. No, absolutely. And in fact, it's not the conversation we're having or seeing, right? Or running the business going like, I know you're worried about AI here at blah, blah, blah corporation.
Yeah.
I know some of you are concerned about your
Mm,
jobs, right? Blah,
yeah.
blah, 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 blah. And it's
Right.
it's challenging, right? Or yeah, it's challenging altogether because it means being responsible too and showing responsibility, right? So
Yes. Yes.
uh,
Yes.
it was interesting what you said. You said heaven forbid, and it's almost like I wonder if heaven would rather
Oh,
that we
yeah.
talk
Right.
about those things,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit as you're helping people with communication.
Hmm.
What is it that you envision from your work? You would desire from your work or from the world because of the work that you're doing?
Yeah. I guess, my real desire, my deepest desire is that people see each other as human beings first and foremost. And to be able to say, like, take ownership. Let's say, we're adopting a new technology at work. We're
Hmm.
doing that, and we're going to cause you some anxiety for some period of time because of that. You're going to have to learn a new system. While I was in public health, we went from a kind of paper record keeping system to an electronic record keeping system. And it all made perfect sense. But you know what? There was a group of people who were employed and had been employed for a long time managing those paper records. And they were worried that going to a computerized system would mean the end of their jobs.
Right.
Okay.
I
So,
remember.
right. And so, listen, you can't get them invested in the solution unless they know I'm safe. My
Right.
livelihood is taken care of. People are paying attention to that. And so, like, to tell them, but don't worry, because you're going to be trained to be the person doing sort of the same kinds of functions on a computer that now you do with a rubber stamp and paper. It's the same function, and we're going to train you. We're going to have
Right.
well adequate training, and so you're going to be that new thing, and your capabilities as a person are going to grow because you're going to now interact with computers, which the rest of the world is doing. And so
Hmm.
you're actually going to be building your capability at the same time that your job is safe. So take care of that stuff first before you let them know, okay, here are the 18 courses that you have to take and here's blah, blah, blah. No. Step one is you're good. Okay. Your livelihood is safe. And we're going to do this and you're going to get better capabilities out of it too. It's not just, we're trying to eliminate your job. It's not that. So
Yeah.
that's, to me, that's a vision that not every organization is astute enough to get on their own because they have businesses to attend to, right? Oh, we got to convert to electronic, record keeping and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. Remember that it's human beings that are going to do it and that they have issues and they have concerns. Take care of those first.
Yeah, I think the I agree with the vision, right? I think the challenge that we're facing is that, and I'm talking about here specifically with the AI that we're
Hmm.
walking into,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I always
yeah,
say
yeah.
like fear moves fast, love moves slow, right? So the reality is finding hey, we can strip this out, we can
Mm,
strip that out, is something that executives are being pushed to find actually, right? Your
agreed. No,
investors
agreed.
want to know, how are you adopting AI? Oh, we're going to do it over
Agreed.
here, we're going to do it over here, which is great for investors.
Hmm.
For the working people, it's not great in the short term,
Hmm.
right?
That's right. That's right.
So the challenge is, yes, you're dealing with human beings. Yes, you're dealing with all of their fears.
Hmm.
And I think we're all having a discussion around what is the goal? What is the goal here? Like literally, like why are we here? Like if the goal is
Yes.
only to make a portion of us who are those who have more, then we're good, right? Those shareholders, right? If you're one
Hmm.
of them, you're part
Yeah.
of the
Sure.
system, right?
Right.
We'll make more at the cost of others for a time, right? And that conversation, it's hard to have that human conversation because we don't know where you're going to go next. You don't know where you're going to go
Hmm.
next,
Right.
and it's just a time that we're in, right? A
I
transition
I
period.
agree. And listen, you know what? I've worked for profit corporations most of my professional life, and I understand that there's pressure for what's your quarterly profit going to be, right? What are the returns on investment? What, like, yes, okay, that's a legitimate concern with a publicly traded company, isn't it? Absolutely it is. Let's be honest. Let's be direct and honest and say, we think there's a potential for AI to save us a lot. And there are going to be problems and there are going to be issues with people. But let's say it out loud, right?
Yeah,
A-
I will
yeah,
say
go
though,
ahead.
Brent, it's hard to do. And what I mean by that is, as having been someone who's led a large team, the reality is I can know, right? I may know, hey, we're going to lose three-fourths of this team. We're going to keep one-fourth. We've already informed two or three of the team members because they've been working with us
Hmm.
on the AI project. So
Right.
they're aware, no one else knows, right? Because you
Sure.
can't stop that, right? So
Yeah.
there's this element there where, for the profit to be smooth, right? And to work it out, you can't inform the team until it's time for them to go.
No, I get that, right? You can't disclose stuff to people
Right,
before you make it
right.
public because you're publicly. Yeah, I get that. I get
All
that.
those things.
But I do think there's a lot of discussion that has to happen in those closed meetings
Hmm.
that is conscious of the effect on people
Oh,
of,
yes.
right? Okay, so that
100%.
conversation has to happen.
Yes,
I think
always.
frequently it happens as an afterthought or it happens tangentially. That should be said out loud directly. Hey, this is going
Yeah.
to affect 1,000 of our workers.
Oh yeah. And I would
What?
say
Yeah,
in
yeah,
all reality, I think it does happen. I think the challenge is we're doing that now at a large scale, and we're all concerned as to how large the scale will be, right?
sure.
Estimates are at,
Yeah.
24% in the
Hmm.
next 4 years or higher. We're
Right.
seeing job loss. So there's a mounting um, feeling. It's a feeling, right, within people, like what are we doing? And that's the
Right.
conversation that we need to be having, right? At
Agree.
the level of
I agree.
business leaders,
Yeah.
social leaders,
Yes.
government. What is our plan?
Yes. Well, see, here's the thing. And, I go back a little bit farther than you do, as far as life experience,
Still
I
rub it
think.
in. Still rub it in.
I'm just saying. So, back when NAFTA was being discussed, right? Um, People knew that there were going to be huge dislocations of manufacturing jobs in America.
hmm
People had clear ideas that manufacturing would move south of the border to Mexico, and other places. That was clearly a part of the downstream effect of NAFTA. But there wasn't the explicit part of the plan and the treaty that said, what are we going to do with those workers? What is going to happen to those people? And so it was sold as a really, utopian fantasy of free trade and everything moves to where it goes. But, you drive through towns in North Carolina that used to manufacture textiles, for example, and they're
Yeah,
boarded up. There's nothing there, right? So obviously the thinking didn't happen and wasn't explicit, and the discussion wasn't broad enough because those people lost their jobs and found nothing afterwards. So I think
yeah.
I think
Oh wait,
people are
your volume
concerned.
went out. Did it go out?
Did my volume go out? Me?
All right.
Did you mute me? Um, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Great. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Keep going.
No, what I was saying was people have that example of NAFTA where
Yeah. Yeah.
policy went through and nobody cared about the working people, about the people who were working in these small manufacturing, facilities. And people are worried that that's going to happen with AI.
Yeah.
That we're not having the discussion right now about, yeah, this is going to make businesses a lot more profitable. What happens to the people who need to feed their families, who need to, you know,
Right.
have
Right.
a place to live? What happens to them? And we've got to make both parts of that an explicit part of the discussion, I think.
Agreed. 150%. 150%. So being brave enough to have the hard conversations, oddly enough, is what we're talking about here,
Yeah.
right? So let's continue in that vein. So
Okay.
um, you know, as a member of a corporation, as a member of the politic, as a member of your local neighborhood, we have tended to keep people in one closet. I think that we've sort of adopted as a scary closet to open, and that is the concept of your moral perspective, your spiritual perspective. Those concepts we were often taught to run away from them, right? Like, hey, you know what? Let's keep it business. Let's keep it
Hmm.
um, none of those things. When in fact, in reality, the core of business, the very foundation of business is love. It was the exchange of goods and services to one another to celebrate life and to get to enjoy life better than if you didn't, right? If you didn't share
Hmm.
and if you didn't share those things with one another, and then we came up with money and all that stuff, and the rest is history, right? As we fought and battled over land and resources. But in this context, I'm curious as to your thoughts, and particularly because you have this communications background, also in government, where you'd spent a lot of time. What are your perspectives on how we are as a society dealing with the spiritual, the moral in our leadership?
I think leadership is well behind people on this. I think in general our leaders aren't very good at making moral arguments explicitly with people. They aren't very good at touching the sacred, what's sacred to people. They aren't very good at appealing to people on that level. Let me just give you a little grounding. So I live in San Francisco, and the image of San Francisco is one of, very secular, very hedonistic, whatever. Okay. There are more places of worship in San Francisco than there are bars. If you know anything about this town, you know there are a lot of bars, but there are more places of worship than bars. What does that tell you? It tells me that people have spiritual lives that they are attending to. But if we were to just take governmental operations, we would think that people don't, because there's never or rarely appeals to the spirituality of people or the ethical core of people when we're dealing with public issues, public policy. And I think we've been taught that it's like a third rail, that we've got to stay away from it, that it's wrong to
Right.
even mention it. I think the opposite. And I think every once in a while you get into this area where we kind of we get next to or run into um, different ideas of spirituality, different ideas of morality and ethics, but it's a very dysfunctional conversation, and it kind of peters out without any effect. I think the real challenge for leaders today is to understand the almost universality of some spirituality in people. And let me just say this as well. Um, to me, you're running for public office. What does that mean? It means that you're asking for the faith of the people who vote for you, that if they support you, you will support them if you get into office. That is faith. That is sacred. Okay? That people give you the faith by giving you their vote and support. That's a sacred thing.
I have so many thoughts. So
Well,
a couple thoughts. So one is, I do agree with you with the amount of churches that are in San Francisco. That's not arguable. But I will also say San Francisco, like many other places, have seen an incredibly large amount of people that are unchurched, right? And that's a large amount. And all I'm saying
okay.
is that what it screams to me is that your point that you also made, a universality must be found, right?
For
A
sure.
universal principle, a universal mechanism for appealing to the spiritual across all people. Now,
Hmm.
I believe 150% that can be described with one word, and that is love. Now, how we love one another is something that we should be debating,
Hmm.
and in some ways we do, but we don't have sort of that unifying component. I don't think expressly being said in corporate leadership or
Mm.
politic. But what's another thread of that, which you got to around this, and it is an amazing faith that people place in you when they vote for you.
Hmm.
I think, unfortunately, just as people are not believing in God, people also don't really believe in the system of governance often. They're not showing up to vote. They're not evaluating who they're voting for.
Mm.
And there's almost an expectation that they're all corrupt.
Hmm.
We've given up on the concept that who I'm voting for is really going to love me,
Hmm.
is going to
Correct.
represent me.
That's
And
right.
so it's interesting to me that we're in a time where people are like, oh, the fall of democracy. And I'm like, did it already fall in the hearts and minds of the people?
Hmm. Right. I mean, I think that's an excellent point, right? Um, there, in a way, it's idealizing the electoral process to say people are demonstrating their faith in you. You know,
Well, I think you're right. I think that is the intention of
correct.
my vote. I
That's right.
150%
That's
agree.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and it's our challenge today that people have increasingly lost faith
Mm,
in both the process and in representatives. So they have seen over enough kind of time that their faith has not been warranted. Their faith has not been returned. You mentioned love. They're not seeing love from the people they've selected to represent them.
yeah.
They're not seeing awareness of their issues. They're not seeing concern expressed by the people that they've expressed their faith in by voting for them, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
100%.
and so you do see a reduction over time of the percentage of people eligible to vote who actually vote. You see a reduction over time, and you see an expression in every poll I've seen increasing cynicism over elected officials, right? They're in for themselves, or they're corrupt, or they're, taking payoffs, or
Yep.
whatever it is.
Yep. Which is also sadly also reflected, I just realized, in the religious community. Meaning, I think people would say, "Oh, they're in it." Whether wrong or right, oh, they're in
Mm,
it for themselves. They're
sure.
not authentic, right? They didn't.
Hmm.
So it's interesting to me because it's like a macro degeneration, right? Like as you slowly believe there's no love, then there isn't.
Right.
And right? And
Yes.
so
It's
we
a
have
self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't
yeah,
it? If you don't believe that love runs things, then you don't exhibit love, and therefore it's a death spiral, right? Because
yeah,
because it feeds on itself.
yes. And so are you do you mind sharing what's your faith basis? Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
No, I don't mind. So I was, born and raised in the Greek Orthodox Church.
Oh, cool.
Um, and I've worked for the Episcopal Church, and really, I don't personally have a spiritual home at the moment. I
Okay.
mean, that's where I am. But I consider myself a person of faith,
Hmm.
um, and feel at home in a lot of different um, religious places,
Hmm.
sacred places, right? Um, but I don't have a community at
Yeah.
at this moment.
Well, and I get that. I haven't had a community for years. I just recently found a church home, which I'm super excited
Oh,
about because
great.
I decided that well, I would say that I rather say the creator of the universe brought me some people. But here's the comment I wanted to make, which is your faith basis, my faith basis, these classically helped us to manifest, right? Or to realize that we were in a spiritual war between good and evil on the earth, and that good's going to prevail, and that the things that you're doing have a long-term positive consequence, right? For your own
Hmm.
soul, for the souls around you. Like it's kind of like a keep going, right?
Hmm.
Energy.
Hmm.
And it is interesting because as we, and I say as we collectively, as people start to believe that all those faiths didn't, they were manipulative tools and devices for control, all the things that we've heard, right? You have an overall group letting go without a replacement
Hmm.
of that same manifesting energy. And so then you realize maybe we are in a kind of spiritual warfare overall. Let's not call it, um, any religion, right? It's just fear versus love.
Well, listen, I mean that's since time immemorial. That's been the fight. Yes, between fear and love. Yes, that's exactly it. And and I do believe, however, that and this is the optimist in me, is that there are sacred moments and places in sometimes where we least expect them. And let me give you an example. My wife and I took some friends to this Thai restaurant near our home. These people started out at in a stall at a farmer's market,
Mm,
cooking over makeshift stuff and putting out great food. And they worked so hard, these folks. They finally got enough to open a restaurant. They finally got enough money to open a restaurant, their own place. And it's become very successful.
mm,
That is a sacred space. You
mm,
walk in with respect and humility for what these people do and what they put into the love they put into the food, the work, the strain, the risk that they took on. That is a sacred expression. I feel I'm walking into a sacred space when I walk into their restaurant.
and
Yeah, I would just say that sometimes we define sacred in such a narrow way that we miss the sacred moments around us.
no, I love that, and it would. I love that, and here's why: because there is an act of service that they're
Hmm.
doing in creating that experience, the food, all of that. It's service, and it's actually an expression of love to you as coming into that space. They are honoring loving thy neighbor, so to speak,
Hmm.
and because of the intention and the connection and knowing these people, it is sacred because it's literally sacrifice of self for others, right?
Hmm.
And I think we've completely missed that part, and as we all go into this sort of selfish mode, which a lot of us are falling into,
Hmm.
you lose the sacredness. I agree with you. It's a very simple. It doesn't have to be that complex, right?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
So these people are creating community in that moment. Like it's a small place. Maybe there are 30 people there, 50 people. I don't know, whatever. Um, that's a community at that moment, right? They're building community around food and around hospitality. And I think we have to be open to that. And in the faith I grew up in, we would have the Eucharist, right? We had the Eucharist. We had communion. That is a Eucharist is a word meaning thanksgiving. It's it's a moment of bringing community together, thank to
Mm,
give thanks and to share in that together. You know, there are many times when we break bread with other people, sit around a table with family, friends, whoever. That's a sacred moment.
it
Doing
is.
that is sacred.
And I would say that the key for us as individuals in the midst of all of
Hmm.
this, it's about you, your intention, and the moment. Right? Because I don't know if you, and I suspect, Brent, that you have done this. I know that I've done it, but you're seeing people who I would say are like asleep, and I say that because the title of this book is "Wake Up to Your Life Magic." Wake up. There are people who are asleep who are just going through the motions and not
Yes.
recognizing the sacred in the moment, and there are those that are in that moment and truly connected to the other humans and experiencing a human experience.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I so I many times would visit um, the emergency department in our public hospital, and many times during really horrible
Oh yeah.
events because I had to go speak to the media and I had to talk to family members and that kind of thing. And many times there'd be a moment where somebody passed. And maybe you've had that experience in your life. I have in my personal life where there's that moment where it's not just the loved one who's passed and their family members, but the nurses, the doctors, the custodians, everybody who's there can feel that there's a sacred moment happening. And I've seen, nurses in the emergency department have seen some stuff, buddy. They've seen it all a million times over. But you can tell that they have that moment too. There is a sacredness in that moment, in that hospital, in that space when someone is departing life, and they respect that moment. They feel it and feel that there's something to it.
Hmm.
Um, it's and then some people go about their day as if nothing's going on.
It's so challenging, right? Because honestly, there are so many miracles. I was thinking about, every life that comes in, every life that leaves is literally miraculous in its own form, right? And then, as you know, these profound shifts that we have in ourselves as we begin to understand how beautiful we are, how incredible we are when we let go of a lie that told us that we weren't. Every one of those is like a birth of a brighter spirit, right?
Mm,
And yeah, it's an amazing world if we stop and really
mm.
consider. And it's hard because the system wants us to keep chasing the false god, whether that's your pride, whether that's
Money.
money,
Mm.
fame, right? And
Yeah.
so we are, yeah. So it's a thing to unplug from the matrix enough to know there's a matrix. I'm in the real matrix when I'm in my other stronger self, but I still have to play in the old one. So it's like this interesting balance we get to do as human beings.
Now, I'm going to bring us back to something you said earlier, and that is the kind of tough place we're in as a country right now. Imagine if everybody in this country said, you know what? Every other person in this place right now has their sacred moment going on. Imagine if we said, before you interact with anybody, before you talk to anybody, before you exchange money for goods, whatever, that you say to yourself, this person is sacred too. Like I am, and so are they. And that's why, there are religious traditions where you bow to another person. You're bowing to the sacredness in them.
Mhm.
Imagine if we started all our interactions that way instead of like antagonistic, fighting, positioning, trying to, get one leg up on some. Imagine if we started with, Helmet, I greet you as a sacred entity, as someone who has the divine within them.
Mhm. And you know what's
Completely
so
different. Yeah.
you know
Sorry.
what's so fun? No, I
Yeah.
agree. What I have experienced, so a big theme. It's part of the book. It's part of my mission in life. I say that I'm here to break boxes to build humans. And when I say that, I mean that there are lies that we believe about the labels that we wear that tell
Mm,
us we don't, oh, a Democrat doesn't do that, a Republican, a wealthy person doesn't, a poor person, right? So, and they limit us from our greatness, from our, I believe, our divinity, or from love of ourself, which is the love of others, which is the love of God. My point of that being that in order to see someone else's light, we are often um, encountering our own lack of love for ourselves when we struggle to see the light in someone else,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And I think we've gotten to that point where people are so clouded in not loving themselves, even though we're supposedly we are the most loved generation of all time. We are, right? We struggle to give that person space because we come up with all the reasons they are not worthy that are actually just mirror
Mm,
images of what we're struggling with in
yeah.
valuing ourselves,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think you're onto something here because, frequently when I see um, people on media lashing out at others, I'm seeing a very um, unfinished, broken core there.
Yes. Yes.
And I often have to keep reminding myself of that because, my monkey brain, my animal self wants to lash right back. But I look at them and think, God, they must feel really poorly about themselves to be
Yeah.
treating other people this way.
That's what you start. That is actually the superpower, Brent. That is the superpower. When you start to see that someone else's aggression is a sign of their hurt within,
Mm,
they're right, like it, and it literally, it just changes everything.
yeah.
Because either you're like, wow, they're really hurt,
Mm,
or wow, they're really so greedy, they'll hurt people. Right? Like it's one of the two. They're either really hurt, or
mm.
I'm going to utilize hurting people to my ends,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The latter being the one that's actually more evil. If the ends aren't good, if that makes sense, if the ends aren't of true, pure intention. Um, wow. So this is a topic I greatly love. It's a big portion of why I wrote the book, because um, people aren't waking up to how important your own life magic is, how important and magical your life is, depending on which way you lead it. Um, so, with that, Brent, you run a business. I run a business. One of the things I like to talk about here on the show is the vulnerability about it's challenging, regardless of who we are. What's one of the challenges that you face in your business that you would share with our audience?
Okay. So I have to do this by telling a story. This is just
Yeah,
who
I
I
love your
am, right?
stories. I love stories. It's the best way to tell anything.
So there was a time when a school district called me for help.
Mm,
Um, and what was happening was a high school basketball coach was having a highly inappropriate sexual relationship with one of their players,
okay.
high school. And um, I won't get into all the details why they called me or anything like that. But while I was talking about what I would suggest they do in response to this, um, a very highly placed school official said, um, you, what you aren't understanding, Brent, is that the kids in this high school develop their sexuality very early in life. And I said to this person, while that may be true, it's immaterial. The
Mm,
In our society, we don't believe that people under the age of 18 can give sexual consent. It's called statutory rape. And that's what this is rape. And this school official and the principal of the high school wouldn't hear it, couldn't hear it, because they had convinced themselves, and this behavior had gone on for years, by the way,
mm,
they had convinced themselves that it wasn't really rape because the kids grew up fast and therefore knew what they were doing, blah, blah, blah. The hardest challenge is to break through the lies people tell themselves so they can sleep at night. I have seen this time and again. And it's only when confronting them in a objective, non-emotional way that they can start to see, oh, this was wrong. And it's only with that basis that you can go forward and build a communication strategy around it. So you have to break through the denial before anything good can happen. That's the biggest challenge there is.
fair. Uh,
And I've seen this so often. It happens all the time.
yeah. I just own that, for a second, because I will share that in my political work, I feel like I'm striving to do just that. And there's this realization, you can't, it's not fear. It has to be love. Even in that case, right? They're going to accept it the sooner that they understand that you care about them. When you said objective, right? It's like
Mm.
if they know that you have good intentions towards them, they're more prone to listen, right?
Yes.
They're more
Mhm.
prone to listen.
Yeah.
So, what is one thing as we wrap up? Because this conversation has been amazing.
Loved it. Loved
But
it
what
too.
is one of the things that you would say, hey, I learned this the hard way? Don't learn it the hard way.
Okay. So it is impossible, taking a long-term view of things, it is impossible to lie and have a positive outcome.
Mm,
And I've seen this so often, right? We want to obfuscate, we want to, cover up, it's the cover up, it's the obfuscation, it's the lie that's going to kill you.
yeah.
People can accept mistakes. People can accept if you own something and say, I did this thing, I'm sorry, let me do everything I can to make it better. People can accept that. People can't accept lying, um, showing bad faith, covering things up. They can't accept it.
Trust is broken.
Trust is broken. Trust,
Yeah.
once broken, is hard to repair.
So hard.
But a mistake once happened and admitted to,
Yep.
okay, you,
Yep. Or
you can build trust.
come out of the mistake with the message yourself, right? Be the
Exactly.
messenger. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That is some great wisdom. That's truly, truly true. And I hope that our listeners understand the value of that. Thank you so much, Brent, for joining me today. This has been a great conversation.
I've enjoyed it too.
I will remind you all, check out Brent on LinkedIn. You can check out Brent Andrew or Speaking Plainly. Either one of those searched on LinkedIn will get you to Brent and his amazing skills around communication. If you want to learn more about $100 million leadership in your business, you can always check out drhelmutlove.com. Thank you so much, Brent.
Thank you. Thank you, Helmut. Thanks for having me. It's been a delight.
Absolutely. Oh, great. Everyone, I hope you have an amazing day. Until next